One of the most fascinating industries right now is digital emerging technologies. And with me is someone who has their finger on the pulse of this industry like really not a lot of people do. I've got Neil Fillary with me here, the co-founder and CEO of Shuttle. So great to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's just start with what Shuttle's doing, and then we'll go into a little bit about what's going on in digital technology.
Yeah, sure. So Shuttle, thank you for having me. Shuttle is a private investment office focused on emerging digital technologies. We've been around since the back end of 2016, but we actually trace our roots back a lot further. We got involved in this space as early as 2010, actually. So we're early adopters of blockchain, very digitally focused.
Let's start with crypto a little bit. So how do you see that industry right now? We, of course, saw the crypto industry take a huge hit in 2018, getting a little life recently, though.
Yeah.
Where do you see that heading?
Yeah, I think there's two things to think about. I think there's the volatility in the price action for Bitcoin and some of the altcoins, so the cryptocurrencies. That's one side. And then I think secondly, there's the technology that underpins some of the blockchain technology and some of the use cases that sits behind a lot of these cryptocurrencies. And that's often said in the industry, and you can hear that on many interviews. That's always said. So the ability to go behind the sort of hype around crypto and look at fundamentally the supply and demand mechanics of those businesses, I think that's important, and we typically look to do that around our investment arm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And blockchain is a fascinating technology that can really change the way so many institutions and industries operate. I mean, food and pharmaceuticals and even government entities and healthcare and just the way that it's unhackable and decentralized can change the way we live.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, in terms of business connectivity and the way in which we look at infrastructure around this space, I mean, you're right, it goes across multiple sectors. There are use cases. I mean, blockchain is not the answer for everything, but I think, as you say, there are many use cases for the technology.
You mentioned you also do some venture investing in emerging companies. So what are some of the most interesting things you're seeing going on right now?
Yeah, I mean, we've invested in over 24 portfolio companies within our group, which is quite aggressive around the space, but it comes from a position of having understanding and expertise. We like infrastructure, so we like aspects around things like custody, exchanges, anything that's going to build the foundations around the blockchain technology space, I think, are quite important.
How you have an idea and will create a company if you don't see somebody doing it.
Yeah.
Give me some examples of when that has happened.
Right now, a lot of people sit on the fence because they're waiting for that security component to be formalized. Mm-hmm. So we went out to the market in the middle of last year, and we couldn't find anything that met those regulatory compliant, the real core technology pieces around security, that we couldn't find it, so we decided to build the company ourselves.
Okay, and also data and Internet of Things. So that is an area that, I mean, data is, some people say it's the new oil. It's so valuable.
I mean, obviously the value of data is key, and how you pull that data and monetize it is obviously, providing you stay regulatory compliant amongst the new rules. I think, that's obviously hugely valuable. I think we actually advise LG Electronics out of Korea on their blockchain strategy, and they're all about Internet of Things. There's consumer-led brands, they've got washing machines, they've got mobile phones. Mm-hmm. Connecting all these things up through technology is it's where the world's going. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's hugely important.
So just from where you sit and kind of having an advantage of all of these digital things, what do you see? Where do you see this headed, and what do you see as some of the most promising technologies in the next 1 to 2 years?
I believe that we are going to be in a future where all asset classes will be tokenized or digitized in some way, shape, or form in the future. All asset classes. All asset classes.
So stocks, bonds, commodities.
Yeah, I break it down. So you've got the crypto market, which is the digital asset market that sits fairly, I'd say, small. It's $600 billion in market cap across the entire spectrum. Okay. And then you've got the financial assets, which you alluded to, stocks, bonds, commodities and currencies. But I see it going well beyond that to more tangible assets. So if you look at real estate, you look at collectibles, gold, art, yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So there's an argument that to create secondary liquidity from some of these perhaps more opaque assets, if you tokenize and digitize them, there's a way to make them, interoperable and freely available to transact and move around the world. Moving value around the world is a concept that I find very interesting.
Sure. So this would be a way that an average investor who doesn't have, $19 million to buy a Van Gogh or something can buy a piece of a Van Gogh.
Yeah, look, exactly right. To your point, I mean, I would love to be able to short, so go short in the market a portion of the London real estate market if it was going in one direction. Now, to do that today is very, very difficult to get exposure to markets. You'd have to go and buy a company or go to the stock markets. If you could have a method whereby these assets are owned in a fractional basis, a concept called fractional ownership, where you can break that building down or you can get exposure via a digital-based token, that would make it a lot easier for the average investor to go in and get exposure to an asset class. So I think that's hugely important.
Sure. I mean, it really democratizes the whole
Absolutely.
investment vehicle that somebody can use. So, okay, thank you so much, Neil, for
Thank you very much.
sharing the story of Shuttle. And thank you as well for joining us. I'm Jane King at the Nasdaq.